Good afternoon. This is Jim Whitehead. I hope you're all having a good day. I am. This is a weird one, and I hope you kind of just go with it. When you pick a channel or a niche, when you're with YouTube, and I admit I was many years ago, I started in 2007. I just did things. I was working a generator company. If you wanted to know how to install a generator or how I install a generator, yada 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 yada. So it was more of a what we call a brochure opportunity. So I could say to people, go up and look, and you'll see how we choose and do load calculations for a generator. Of late, I've been back on it, and I mean full time, for about a year and a half. Yes, thank goodness. Thank you very much. I am above 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, I'm a little low on my watch hours, but the bottom line, you don't give up. But today, I wanted to kind of, when somebody said, well, why'd you choose animals? Well, what is, you think that's just people going to love animals, so you're going to be famous and rich? I said, no. I grew up with animals. So today we're going to talk about 10 things I learned, 10 things I did with my mother. It's kind of a reasonable facsimile of my mother. It's hard to. My mother died when she was 84 in 1994. So, and I don't have any pictures, which is a shame. I get it. So I use Leonardo AI, and I put in Gertrude Whitehead, not thinking they were going to be able to say, "Oh my heavens, that's my mother." But anyway, you get it. You get the point. So we get into, the things that happened with this. My mother was an animal lover. We were the neighborhood home that where neighbors would bring their hurt animals. And we always did our best to save them. Now, I remember all the time we would have a cardboard box, and we'd have something covering it, and we'd have an eyedropper and soft pieces of bread, and we would do everything we could to save. And it was typically a lot of times a bird falling out of a tree, et cetera, et cetera. So, it was like I tried and I tried and I tried. I do admit it wasn't very successful, but it's one of those things where you try and you keep trying. Now, our first dog, her name was Ginger. And by the way, one of the 10 things that I learned back then was that animals are the better parts of our world. There's a lot of wonderful things in our world. And I know sometimes people say, well, what do you mean? What's good? Because, news personifies, I hate to say, things that are not necessarily happy and wonderful. But it doesn't mean that, one, you can't be still happy and wonderful and try to be positive. So that's how I was brought up. So I kind of didn't get it. And this was Ginger. And I admit, I used to pester Ginger, which I still feel bad about today. And I'm 75. So this would have been back when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. And, the goodness of the opportunity and the great thing that you can remember things from your childhood. And these were extremely fond memories. And I'm going to try to do a series where I do the first 10 years, which is this one, of course, and then the next 10, and then the next 10. And then I guess after that, it kind of gets, it's all the same in a way. So I'm not sure on that. But anyway, my mother had dogs, guinea pigs. And that's why it wouldn't be where you'd say where you just did dogs. No, we didn't do just dogs. My mother had pet guinea pigs. And I mean, this wasn't like somebody in a box. This was like family. And I'm not exactly sure what my mother fed our guinea pig, but bottom line, all our animals got the best of care. And I get the best of care too, so no complaints there. She also had parakeets. And, you know, she would teach them how to speak. And I admit, they're not like parrots or cockatiels that really can carry on a long conversation, but parakeets can actually say things. Now, she also had fish. Not that that's a good picture of what type of fish she had. She had all, you know, angelfish. She also had these, what we call kissing gouramis. They were, and she had to have a fish tank that had a middle piece of glass, because she put two of these fish and they could not get together because they would unfortunately probably attack each other. But what was kind of neat, when they'd come up to the glass and they go, "Oh, there's another one of me there," they would turn all different colors. So in other words, I guess, you know, if you see somebody gets angry and they've got a red face, these kissing gouramis and what have you would say, "Oh," and change colors. So it was pretty cool. Now, our second dog was named Susie Q. And my mother had this theory, and this is another thing, and I've had to try to, how would you say, think about how I felt about this. But my mother would feel that if you lost one of your dogs or your dog, that it was, some would say, "Oh, you're going out to get another dog already? You know, Ginger just died." She'd say, "Well, there is a grieving period, yes, but try to get out and get another dog." I didn't have cats. I love cats, but I don't know why. My mother wasn't a cat person. But she would say, you know, go out and get another dog as soon as you can, because you are honoring. And, you know, again, I can remember her saying this. You're honoring the animal or the dog you just lost a short time ago. And by getting another dog, you're honoring their memory, in that you love them so much and they're not here. So the only way to kind of be okay is get another animal, get another dog, and always remember that every dog you have. So anyway, as you can see, we had a Basset Hound as our second dog, Susie Q. And I used to sit on the floor with her. And boy, she had these big ears, as you can see, and she was kind of, you might say, not the most, how would you say, she'd be a little sloppy in reference to, you know, coming up to you and going over you. But I used to sit for hours just sitting there petting her, watching the black and white TV that was that big, and, you know, TV started in the early 50s, and some of these will be some aside points, but the first TV I remember, it was maybe 10 inches by 10 inches, and you would put this colored cover over it. clear color. And now you've got color TV, even though it might be just light red, blue. So, but if you don't know any better, you say, yeah, we have color TV. And speaking of color TV, we got our first color TV in 1964. And, in the neighborhood, we had a family by the name of the Sankers. And they were the first one to have a real color TV, round picture, but color. And they used to invite, on Sunday nights, we'd go over to their home, and we would watch The Wonderful World of Color, which is Disney. And again, I'm talking in the early 60s. And we would also watch Bonanza, which was a Western back then, an hour show. And most shows were not in color. These were the only two first that were in color. Now, when we got our first TV colored set, the real one that actually did color, we had, and some will remember that's maybe old like me, we had basically a blackout. It was I was born and raised in Rhode Island. Oh, and yeah, don't ask me if I know Joe Smo, because again, it wasn't, the state's small, but not that small that you would know everybody. But we had a massive power outage that took out the whole, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, et cetera, et cetera. And boy, was I bummed out, because brand new color TV set, I can't watch it. So finally, we did get our power back. And maybe that's why I'm a generator company. And now I'm an EcoFlow battery system backup company. Because back then, when I was a youngster, we had that blackout when the first night we had the TV. Okay, another thing that's, you won't remember this name, or even probably have heard this name. My mother was very much anti using animals to test chemicals like creams for your face and so on and so forth. And back then they called it vivisection. And again, she was like, and I didn't know much then, but I certainly remember this, and always have felt that it's not fair to use wonderful animals to try to make our life better. No, we should be making their life better. So not using them to experiment with, different cosmetics. I mean, it really is kind of crass, actually. Now, when I started to say, my mother would say, if you lose an animal, go to the pet store and try, if you're able to, in the sense you've gotten over through the grieving process, that you get another animal. And I still remember that. We lost a dog about 10 years ago. It was my neighbor hit her with the car, and very, very sad. And yes, we were going to get another dog, but I couldn't jump into it as quickly as I think my mother would have said, get another dog. It took us about 2 to 3 months with the grieving process, and then we went and got Jamie Whitehead. She's the CEO of All Power Group and Phoenix Animal. Anyway, moving on, the other thing that would happen, I know this is a little disjointed, but we're trying to get the 10 things. Back then, and most people don't do it today, because it's kind of dangerous for the animal. But we would just, when the dog barked to go out, we'd open up the back door and they'd go out. We wouldn't put them on a leash. And we then would go and call them, when it was time to come back in. Now, I know you probably wouldn't generally do that today because our world has changed a little bit. A lot, I should say. And, as she got into the anti-vivisection, she was afraid that if she just let our dog out, in this case it would have been Susie and then Ginger before her, that somebody might try to take her and, vivisection. So, anyway, the last thing I'm going to say, and again, I got to be honest, it's like when you're doing programs and you go, what am I going to do? I started saying, I really want to retrace some of my history. I mean, I don't worry, it won't be forever and ever and ever. But it's nice to be able to demonstrate why and how you are how you are. That didn't sound right, but where you say, look, I didn't all of a sudden at 75 years old get to love animals. And they might say, well, how'd you get into when you started again full-time with YouTube? I was doing a lot of different things because I love history. I can go on and on and on. I was doing ancient Romans, et cetera, et cetera. Alexander the Great and Napoleon. I mean, I love history. But I started when we moved from Davie, Florida over to Naples, Florida, where we are now. I had my studio. I'm in a building now that we brought in specifically for this, believe it or not. And it's not as cheap as you thought it was, or I thought it was going to be, but it's wonderful. But we felt that we needed animals over here, and what we did is we have a nice fenced-in backyard, and we're in the woods. We have bears here, and coyotes and panthers, deer, snakes, rabbits. It's a great place. The only negative is we have a lot of mosquitoes. And they keep spraying, but I'm not sure if they're going out with a full plane of spray or they just say, I'm going to go around and act like I'm spraying around homes. Because they come by about 10 o'clock at night. And I'm going to say every couple of weeks. They're either using the cheap stuff or it's just so hard with so much kind of rural tree thing. So anyway, I want to just say thank you, and I hope this had it where you see, how I became who I am, and that when you get in, you say, do you actually think that, why does somebody do anything in YouTube? Is it because they think it's other people like it, or that you feel you like it? And admittedly, it's got to be both ways. I could spend thousands of years here, and if it isn't anything that other people don't like, I'm wasting my time. Although I will be the first one to admit that I have not chosen animal presentations based on the fact that I think people are going to love animals or do love animals, and they're going to love the content related to animals. Now, the funny thing is, I do admit, if somebody say, is your channel rated X, R, or G? And I know you're used to that related to movies. And most of us wouldn't want to go to a movie that was rated G. And, you know, they then at least would have a channel that was rated R, and you'd say, well, okay, it's rated R. But there wasn't much in between. And then, yes, there was X. I don't even know if they do that anymore, but there was X that was kind of like, you know, things that are a little bit sexually oriented, I guess. And the other thing that happens is related to YouTube is, and unfortunately, every G-rated channel is fighting not a losing battle. You're fighting a battle because, especially right now, when I go to YouTube, and certainly because I learn so much from YouTube, every other story, whatever, creation is all negative politics. Very few positive, political creations. They're all like this, going to jail 20 times and going to be in jail forever. And, you sit there and go, oh, I can't wait for this to maybe finally be over. And we're going to get there. I think we have 55 days until election. And, the biggest thing, and I started a political channel back about a year ago within what I was another separate channel called Politics in the Middle. Because I feel that there's nothing where you'd say, I'm a Democrat and I totally hate Republicans, or I'm a Republican and I hate Democrats. They're people. I used to be an independent because I always have felt like let's vote for not a party, and this is even more true today in a way. It would be the best person for whatever office they're running. If it's a senator or representative or president, vice president, that you'd want to say, I don't want to tie my hands. I want to be able to say I'm going to vote maybe for this for that and that for this. But the worst thing that's happened in this country is we're so polarized in many negative ways. But again, the politics in the middle was going to be where, I try to not come down and say, as you see all these channels that are either far right, far left, centrist, libertarian, I mean, I can go on and on and on, all the names, but, do those people get into some of those things where just because they think that's the better side to be on and they're going to get more followers? I can't do that. So I did about four presentations, and I don't know, I was talking about space lasers, and actually I had Jamie speaking about it so that I didn't have to. But anyway, we do animals, and I probably will keep doing animals until I can't do this anymore. And I hope that doesn't happen very soon. But thank you very much, and I hope you like this. I don't know. It's kind of like as I kept preparing for it, because obviously no one comes by and says, "Okay, here's your presentation. Here's all your video. Here's all your static pictures." No, this is all homework. This is all pulling stuff. And obviously, if I'm going back when I was 10 years old, you're talking about 64 years and 65 years ago. So there aren't a lot of good pictures that are from then. So anyway, thank you, and I'm gonna try to do the near future from 10 years to 20 years, or maybe 25 years or 30 years. But the bottom line, we have more good animal stuff to talk about. Again, thank you for being here, and I appreciate it. Take care.